saw you on Facebook.
You did? Oh, okay, good. She in black?
Yeah, she was in black.
Oh, fine as water, huh?
Let me walk around here since you can see all this work here.
Not exactly.
Look.
She did it.
Oh yeah.
Because we're going to do like a sort of like an interview type.
Oh really?
There. Betty and Tony is
Yeah, Betty and Tony is fine. I guess today he wants to be called Tony. You know what it is.
Okay. Yes.
Anything y'all like to say to Sarah?
Yes, we are so proud of you, Sarah. You have so much to offer in a very rich, rich book. Every time I read it or reread it, I just become so inspired by your words and your spirit. And I just want you to know, right on, girl.
Just delighted to be here to celebrate your book signing and look forward to reading it. And good luck and keep up the good work.
God be the glory.
It's like staying your ground. When you knock on the wrong door, that's what happens.
And stop. Just
But his enemies, like, are trying to make something happen.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're still
Well, we want to congratulate Sarah on a great project, and I think it's important that we recognize our ancestors and know what our family tree is all about, and not be ashamed to share it.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we're trying to be a beautiful afternoon. After a little bit of rain for a quick moment. My name is Julie Waters. Reached out to many of you via phone and email. Make sure you're able to make it here today. And I'm glad you're all here to join us. So, of course, we're here for Sarah's book signing. Sarah's been watching O'Neill Rush. She's sitting right here to my left. And today's discussion will be moderated by Patsy Lockhart. She is a former educator, retired educator. She did most of her work at East Palo Alto Union City here in the Bay Area. And she's also an accomplished researcher focusing on social justice issues in schools. She emphasized critical thinking, and she was recognized for solutions relating to children in urban environments. I will let Patsy take it away. Thank you again.
I also want to thank everybody for coming. One of the things that Sarah wants is for us to be interactive. She has a lot to share. She has her story, along with everybody in the room. Everybody has a story to tell. And we're going to be honored to hear Sarah's story today and some key points in her life that mold and shape who she is today. I want to break for just a minute and just offer to Sarah my greatest congratulations to the authoring of your second book. Her first book is Timeless Treasures, as many of you may know. And in her second book, of course, is Rising Up from the Blood. Her great-grandfather was the great Booker T. Washington, and one of his books, Up from Slavery, is available for you to look through later on as well, which was a seed from which Sarah wrote her book. Sarah is a founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization to help urban youth in providing practical tools and strategies for dealing with issues that they face and struggle with constantly. From her ideals she's pulled from her great-grandfather, as well as her journey in which she's created her own voice, and which you'll hear when you read her book. She is an accomplished writer, and as a result of picking up her second book, I became very much into the Me Too's and connections of things that I have faced as well in relation to what you wrote about. So I want all of us, before we get started, to just close your eyes for a second and think about your own story. And of course, we can't take you, if I can see your eyes, they're not closed. Of course, you can't focus on when you were born, but if you think about it, it's a long time from birth to present, right? But what are some key things that mold and shape who you are today? Can you think of one or two? And if you could think of one or two things in your life, in your own story, just lift up your little index finger. Well, I want you to hold on to that, because as Sarah speaks today, you can open your eyes. There may be some Me Too's as well. And there may be some personal connections. And you may, just like Booker T. Washington and Sarah, think about ways that not only helped you personally, but your heart is big enough to reach out to other people, in particular, our children, who may be at a place where they need to hear your story, or they need to feel your heartbeat. So with that, I want to switch over to Sarah for a few minutes. And Sarah, you're going to share with us a few expressions of gratitude.
I am so pleased to be here today, and so thankful that Don and Lillian opened their home up to me, and just for all of you being here, and friends of my mother's, and I just, my heart is full, and I appreciate everybody.
So as you think about your book, Rising Up from the Blood, A Legacy Reclaimed, A Bridge Forward, what inspired you to write this book?
So what inspired me was, for the last, 12 years, I've been kind of picking it up and putting it down. And it started in graduate school. I had to do an autobiography. So it started with a 15-page autobiography, and then it went to an 87-page written manuscript, and that was about 10 years ago. And I was picking it up and putting it down, and as my life became richer, I had more and more to put into it, and more perspective on my purpose. And one of the things, so a lot of what's in the book, or a lot of my life, revolves around my upbringing, and it's sort of come full circle, and I believe it's divine order. That so one of the things that inspired me was finding out more about Booker T. Washington. Well, I always knew he was my great-grandfather. I didn't know what it meant. I went to all Oakland. I'm a product of Oakland Public Schools, and there may have been like a blurb in the textbooks. And my father would brag about it, but he would never tell me why he was bragging about the fact that we were Booker T. Washington's great-grandchildren. And my mom, who was the granddaughter, didn't talk much about it. And so it was when I went to, and just backing up a little, so I grew up, Oakland, started North Oakland, middle school West Oakland, high school East Oakland, and I went through a lot of turbulent times, and a little bit different. I took a little bit different path from my the other fourth generation, my cousins, who are Booker T. Washington's great-grandchildren as well. And I was considered at risk, if you will, or urban youth. I got into a lot of trouble, but I was a good girl. I was a good, quiet girl. But I got into trouble. I really was a good girl. I got into trouble. I was lost and confused. And it wasn't until as an adult I went to Tuskegee University for the first time in my life. Two of my cousins decided they wanted their daughter to know her history, and so we had a family reunion. And when I walked on the campus of Tuskegee University, I had never even been to the South before, and my mom was born and raised across the street from the university. And anyway, it just changed my life. I saw there are buildings that are still there today that he and former slaves built by hand using not just the brick, they made the bricks. And then he perfected the bricks. They perfected the bricks. And everybody kept telling him to give up because he didn't have a lot of money and he didn't have a lot of resources and material, but he wouldn't give up. And I think he sold his last watch. It's all enough of slavery. But he finally got the brick making machine or the kiln or whatever to work, and then he got those bricks out, and then people started coming from miles around to purchase these bricks, and they were building buildings all over the South, and there's a couple of them at least that are still in existence on the campus of Tuskegee University today. So all of that was so inspiring to me, seeing the George Washington Carver Museum there and finding out that connection. And it just turned my life around. So I went from survival and trying to find out what was going to make me whole and why am I here and I just want to be happy, to really live it on purpose. And it inspired me to do the nonprofit. My first love is writing. But when people, because my mom didn't talk about it a lot, as you might know, she didn't talk about it. People were surprised to find out that she was related to Booker T. Washington, no less the granddaughter. And so, but when I started, after I went to that university and my background in psychology, I started a mental health newsletter, Lifting the Veil. And then people started asking me to speak, and so I would go around speaking, but I always wanted to write. And so I figured in a book I can get a message out for a lot less cost per person to a lot more people, and so that was the inspiration for the book.
Okay. Now I'm going to pull from our conversations, and you mentioned the dedication. Would you mind sharing the
sure.
dedication?
Okay, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses. I will read. So the book was dedicated to my mom, who I love dearly, and I know she loved me dearly, and I recently just shared a little bit that, and I was told that this happens when you write an autobiography, but I had a relative who also loved my mom, and my mom loved this relative, who said maybe I was a little bit too descriptive of our failings. But the book, in a large part, is about falling and failing, but not just because I don't believe in just leaving people there, but it's also about rising and achieving, and so that's where I leave people. But it does talk about our failings. So my dedication to my mom is, I dedicate this book to my mother, Agnes Louise Washington O'Neill, my #1 fan. Though we took the long way around, I would have never become the person I am today without her. I miss her deeply. I especially miss having her around in the midst of my accomplishments. The pride in her facial expressions was priceless. I also miss her whenever there is a major news event that I know would have broken her resistance to watch television. She didn't own a TV. She didn't want a TV. She just read. The election of our first black president, Barack Obama, would have surely been one of those times. I am certain that by now she would have read everything published in good taste, because she didn't believe in reading things that brought her down. So in good taste about our First Lady, Michelle Obama. Every day I find myself becoming more and more like all that was special about her. I believe she continues to watch over me from above. I know I will see her again one day. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. Now, when I read the book, I felt like there was a spiraling effect. You started with Booker T's voice and his ideals and what was important, what mattered to him. And then you gave some really concrete, vivid examples of challenges and your journey through your own life. And your voice sort of rose like a phoenix from that. And then I noticed that at the end of it, you created a list of principles, some tools or mechanisms that someone who does care and wants to make a difference can go by as a result. That was really powerful for me. What was your what is it that you want the reader to get out of providing such a rich book like that?
So again, I have a philosophy that I think too many of us, or too many people, whether they're in the media, in the pulpit, in the music studio, in the press room, too many of us take us somewhere that's sort of bitter and angry, and they leave us there. We were talking earlier about the phrase 3/5 of a human being, and I've heard it thrown out there too many times and just left there to leave inside bitterness and anger. I don't know if that's the purpose, but that's what it does. And so I wanted to write something that shows that I'm human, that my mom was human, that because again, I didn't know what it was to be a descendant of Booker T. Washington, and then after I found out, I had people, can I touch you? Can I have your autograph? Can I do this? Can I? And so, but I had so many failings. So what I wanted to do was to put that in there, but to show people it's okay to fall as long as you get back up and you learn something, because we're all going to fall, whether we say it or not. And my purpose for talking about it, and I talk about things in this book that I haven't shared with anybody, including my husband Anthony here, and my children and others, but I share it in this book. And after each chapter, there's actually tips and principles on doing something, and how to do something else, how to get through a circumstance. But I just don't believe in just leaving people there. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. But there's something in particular that I was touched by, and I'm wondering what difference would your book make? Could you explain to your audience your experience with the panel that you had last week, and some of the responses that you got? And when you shared that with me, I said, I thought this book could really help, especially with people in the audience. You have a diverse group of people here that represent. It's easy as an educator for me to say I'd like to develop this curriculum, I'd like to have discussion groups, et cetera, but everyone's not an educator. But I wanted you to share this panel because I felt like it was an assessment of a problem, and I want to know, how could your book make a difference for this experience?
Okay, well, first I'll talk about what happened, and then I will address how the book might make a difference. But so I'm an adjunct professor at Argosy University in Alameda, and there was a panel, and the name of the panel, the title was Black Minds Matter, and they invited me to be on the panel. I believe all minds matter. I believe all lives matter, and but I agreed to sit on the panel. And I brought up a few things, and I was getting, they were not really attacking me, but I guess disagreeing with me. And one of them, because Booker T. Washington was really big on personal responsibility, and that has come into my soul, and I am so big on personal responsibility, but because I experienced